Welcome and good afternoon. My name is Kamish Orr, and welcome back to something I like to call Stories from the Maelstrom, a recap of the day's games for this past week of real time. As always, we had some interesting games today. We head over to Boston as the New York Swats were facing the Boston Splinters. And New York, I believe, last place in the American League. However, they actually did well in this one. It took them a while, but they're in the seventh inning. Catfish Hunter finally kind of lost it a little bit after recording the first two outs here. Ty Cobb and Yogi Berra. He walked Wade Boggs. Lou Boudreau singled. And then Babe Ruth walked to load the bases. Ken Griffey Jr. drove in two with a single. And then he walked Jimmy Fox to load the bases again. And Harold Baines to walk in a run. Now, Lefty Grove came in. And he also walked in a run. So a lot of walks in that inning. That gave the New York Swats exactly what they needed. They ended up winning this one 6-1. Hal Newhouser has been a surprising star for the New York Swats pitching staff. He's now 6-2. He allowed just one earned run in 8 innings in this one. That run coming in the first inning here on a Mickey Mantle RBI single. And if we're following the Ted Williams, who leads the league in batting, I believe, he was 1 for 4 in this game. His average is down to 381. He was over 400 for a while, but he's kind of cooled off a little bit from that. But still hitting very well. New York improves to 18-22, and Boston falls to 21-18. Boston's in second place, just behind the Detroit Rockets in the American League, but it's a pretty tight race over there in the AL. Now we head over to LA as the St. Louis Wizards facing the Los Angeles Dynamos, and LA really needed to continue their momentum. They had gotten to within, I believe, a game, maybe 2, of the Wizards for the National League lead. As St. Louis had really had a tough time after the All-Star break, and LA had a good winning streak in there. So LA was really hoping to host the Wizards and use these 4 games to maybe even get into first place for the first time all season. But they dropped the first one in the series yesterday, and they drop a close one here today as well. St. Louis, Stan Musial hit his league-leading 13th home run, a 2-run shot in the first inning to get them on the board right away. But LA responded. I should have said Carl Hubble was facing off against Don Sutton in this one. Carl Hubble had a rough first inning. As you can see here, of course, some of that was aided by, well, you can see Barry Larkin walked, Chuck Klein singled, Willie Mays grounded out, but scored a run there. Johnny Mize followed with an RBI double. And then with 1 out, Tony Perez struck out. Carl Hubble struck out Tony Perez, but the ball got by Johnny Bench and on the third strike, and allowed the inning to, or well, it would have only been the second out anyway, but allowed the inning to continue longer than it should have. Hubble walked the next 2 batters, including walking Johnny Bench to walk in a run. Oh, actually, that pass ball was by Ted Simmons. Sorry. Not Johnny Bench. And then finally got out of the inning when Frank Robinson flew out to Oscar Charleston in center, and Charleston gunned down Tony Perez at the plate for the 3rd out of the inning. So Perez ended up making the 3rd out anyway. But they'd score 3 runs there, so LA was up 3-2. Felt pretty good about their chances in this one. But then both pitchers kind of settled down the rest of the game. St. Louis would score 1 in the 5th to tie it up on Larry Walker's RBI single. And 3-3 tie headed to the 7th inning when 3 straight singles against Don Sutton. The last one, Tony Gwynn, by Tony Gwynn would put them ahead 4-3. LA did their best in the 8th and ninth to try to score. Even in the ninth, Willie Mays led off against Bruce Suter, the St. Louis closer, there with a single. Suter got Johnny Mize to fly out, but then Tony Perez singled to put men on first and second. Cristobal Torriente came in to pinch hit. He grounded out to third, but advanced the runners to second and third. So the tying run was on third, and the winning run was on second. And Ernie Lombardi was brought in to pinch hit for Johnny Bench, and he grounded out to end the game. So Suter picks up his 11th save. Carl Hubble gets the win in this one. He's 7-0 now, unbeaten. And St. Louis wins this one to go to 27-13. They extend their lead over LA by 4 games, or 2-4 games, as LA falls to 23-17. Still enough time left here for LA to catch up. They have 2 more games here in Los Angeles against the Wizards, so they can cut that lead back down, but not a good start to the series for LA. Next, we head over to Detroit as the Oakland Jacks facing off against the AL leading Detroit Rockets. And this one's all about Reggie Jackson. We had David Cohn facing off against Jack Morris. Morris had a pretty good game, allowing just 3 earned runs, striking out 6 in 7 innings. A couple of solo shots here, one for Kenny Lofton and one for Adrian Beltre. But Reggie here in the 4th kind of allowed them to really break things open with a 3-run homer. Reggie has been a big disappointment this season. He's hitting under 200 on the year, and hasn't really done too much. He's not leading in strikeouts like you would expect, which has kind of been surprising. So his eye has been a little bit better, but he hasn't been getting very many base hits, unfortunately for the Jacks. And so, but this game was a nice exception to that. He had that 3-run homer there in the 4th, which put Oakland up 6-1. Detroit would get a couple of runs back, one in the 6th and one in the 7th, to cut the lead to 6-3. But then in the 8th, he hit another home run, a 2-run shot against Urban Shocker, the Detroit reliever, to extend that to 8-3 at that point. Detroit would get another run back in the 8th, but then in the 9th, Oakland would score another run anyway. So Oakland takes this one 9-4. They improved to 17-22, and Detroit falls to 23-17, making that race in the American League even tighter, as we'll see here in a minute. Finally, we head to Chicago as the Houston Hoots take on the Chicago Docks. Chicago heading into this one with a 7-game losing streak, and facing eliminated. I believe they were already eliminated officially when St. Louis won earlier in the day. But they pulled this one out. Houston took a 3-0 lead into the 8th, and Bob Gibson he was just cruising, having one of his better starts actually. But all of that changed here in the 8th inning when Buster Posey led off with a single. Todd Helton struck out, but then Troy Tulowitzki singled to put runners on, I believe, first and second at that point. Barry Bonds was walked to load the bases, and then Albert Pujols had a bases-clearing triple to tie the game at 3. Didn't mention Jerry Koosman was pitching for the Chicago Docks. And with the score tied 3-3, turned it over to the relievers here. And in the bottom of the 9th, Dizzy Dean's coming on for Houston here, and he walks Jeff Kent to lead off the inning, and Kent gets thrown out trying to steal second. Pete Rose grounds out, and it looked pretty likely that this was going to head to extra innings at this point with 2 outs and nobody on. But Buster Posey singled, another clutch single from Posey in the 9th. Todd Helton walked, and then Troy Tulowitzki hit the walk-off 3-run homer here as Chicago takes this one 6-3. Houston falls to 18-22. Chicago, only their 12th win of the season. Very disappointing season for Chicago. So they win this one, but as we go over here to the standings, we can see first in the American League, there's only 5.5 games separating first and last place. So still anybody's game there. Boston currently a game and a half behind Detroit for the lead. And in the National League, St. Louis has now won 4 straight. 27-13. They have a 4-game lead over LA. Chicago here at 12-28. They're 15 games back with only 14 games left to play. So probably eliminated from the postseason statistically. They'd have to have something miraculous happen. I haven't quite decided yet. And if you're listening to this, you can leave a message in the comments what you think I should do. My original thought was just to have the top 2 teams face off in the World Series with no real playoffs other than the World Series. Since there's only 4 teams in each league, there's not really a lot of room for playoffs there, I didn't think. That being said, though, I can very easily see a case where we're going to come down to the last couple games of the season and both races will already have been decided. So there won't be much drama left at the end of the regular season. So the only other thought I had was having the top 2 teams in each league do one round of playoffs before, like a league championship series before the World Series. I don't know. I'm still leaning towards just having the top team in each league face off in the World Series and skipping that, since there's only 4 teams in each league. Just because, but I don't know. I haven't really settled on it one way or the other. I might just kind of see how things shape up towards the end of the season to see if it's even worth it. I'd hate to get to the end of the season and have a 1-game difference and the second place team doesn't make the playoffs at all or doesn't have a shot. But I don't know. If you have an opinion, leave that down in the comments. I'm only doing a third of a season or a third of a regular season, so 54 games. So I have about 14 games left for these teams, and then we'll be done. I have another plan for a couple of other projects in the works. This is the only project I have going on right now, but I have a couple of other projects in mind for the future, and I'll talk more about those as the time comes. But all of that said, thank you so much for watching. Always appreciate all the support. And until next time, have a great evening.